Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Greetings and salutations. Today we're going to be talking about gun violence, and we've covered this tangentially on the show in the form of the Baltimore City consent decree, and we've talked to friends at Baltimore Ceasefire 365. We've been talking about this in the context of mental health. Today we're going to talk about it outright. So that's going to be an interesting conversation, I am sure. But as always, I want to give a big shout out first and foremost to my team. Being out here doing the daggone thing is not easy. And I am grateful for the people who support me and support the show. It means a lot. Other thing that I want to say thank you to, and I also want to say, so that's Crazy Horse Morgan and Brandy Raymar, and a big shout out to my personal assistant, Grace Oweka, who is, always checking in, always making sure that we have the resources necessary to stay focused, you know what I mean? Because it's easy to get distracted. You watch the news, there's so much happening all the time. So it is really great to have a team to help me stay focused and keep us pushing forward. Big shout out to the listeners and the viewers of the show. I appreciate you all greatly, and I am grateful that you all are here. I'm grateful that you all take the time out of your day to spend some time with me and our guests and talk about the issues of the day. So thank you very much for that. So want to say big up to a couple of organizations. You all know we love to shout out Breadcoin. Breadcoin is an alternate payment system. The way it works is that they take donations and turn them into alternative currency, basically these bread coins. And you can take these bread coins to any of the participating organizations or participating restaurants or caterers, and you give them the bread coin. And I think right now the coin has a value of $2.50. So you can sit there and you can eat in these restaurants with these caterers, and you can do it with dignity. Nobody has to know, whether you're a volunteer, whether you purchased your bread coin, or whether you gave a donation, or whether you are a recipient. Nobody needs to know that. And you can just sit down and be a real person without the stigma that's associated when people know that you are receiving help. So I really do appreciate that. Breadcoin is a great partner. Make sure that you all check them out, breadcoin.org. They do amazing work. So that's Breadcoin. Also want to tell you guys about Darker Than Blue Grill. The food is amazing, and they're a sponsor and a great friend of BlackUSA.news, as well as Be More News and the Black community in Baltimore in general. This business has been growing and thriving and adapting in all of its iterations, and the team there is really dedicated to not just putting quality food, not just running a quality business, but being a great community partner. And so we are very, 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 very happy to partner with them. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to tell you a little bit about my company and what we do. Hi, my name is William Honolulu Jr., and I'm the host of the Black USA News Morning Show and the president of the Grinding Gang Incorporated. The Grinding Gang is an organization that helps small business owners in the nonprofit and for-profit communities figure out how to make sense of all the noise. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. We help you develop business plans. We help you figure out what to do with a lot of the information you receive. And we also help you figure out how to become more profitable. We also host a variety of workshops. You can check out our next workshop on grant writing right here. So that's my company, that's me, and that's what we do. Just want to help people do better business. It's easy. It's actually fairly easy to come up with a business plan, but you need a business system to really help guide how you're going to operate your business. The plan is ideal. It's like, when I plan to go to my mom's house, it's like, okay, I should leave around this time. But if a system is, well, where are my keys? Do I have enough gas in the car? Do I need to stop? And having a response and know where the resources are each step of the way. Is there going to be traffic? Do I need to adjust the time? That system, that creating, your GPS is the system that helps get you where you need to go. And the more information you have, the more readily you can make decisions on the fly. I remember back in the day when you had the big maps. You know what I'm saying? Some of you all have never even seen those, the big maps that you had to unfold and then fold back up. It was like origami. And you would have this huge map, but it wouldn't tell you anything that happened since the map was printed. Now, we advanced a little bit. Well, not now, but then we advanced a little bit more. We had MapQuest. So MapQuest could tell you about all the new lanes or all the new roads and things like that, but they couldn't tell you about traffic information right now. So now we have GPS systems, and they can tell you not just traffic information, but if there's something in the road, if there's a police car or something like that, they can do all of those things because there's a system in place to relay information to you and as close to real time as possible. So that's what we try to help you do at the Grinding Gang. We help you. We're kind of like your GPS. You could have a old school fold up map. That's what most business plans look like. They look like one of those big things you got to fold up. Nobody really knows if it's going to work because, okay, so what about traffic? Are there any new tolls? You don't have that information. We help you put together a system where the information flows and that you can continue. Well, actually, you can become profitable if you're not. Continue profitable if you are, and grow that to where you want to be. So that's what we do at the Grinding Gang. Let's see, because I got to keep up with my show notes. I got to keep up with my show notes. They tell me make sure you talk about everything you need to talk about before you just head out there and just start wilding out or whatever. Hey, Erica, it's Erica. Hi, Erica. How you doing? Again, tell them all. I don't want no trouble. No trouble at all. Here's my show notes. Okay. Yes, need to make sure that I let you all know that we have continuing coverage of Maryland's 2020 election. Today is June 9th. That means that the first mail-in ballots should be out and about now. Make sure you stay updated with our coverage. We'll be talking to the candidates themselves. We're looking at a lot of the shows. Well, you'll be looking at the shows that we've had where we have had candidates come and speak on their platforms about some of the issues and things like that. And we're going to post those so that you can hear from the candidates directly. Actually, Donnie, he had a conversation with, Erica says, what up? He had a conversation with Kelly Schultz today, who's running for governor of Maryland. And that'll be in rotation, I'm sure, soon. So make sure that you stay tuned. We're going to make sure that you have accurate information. Okay, I think that's all the show notes I have, because this is going to be an interesting conversation today. One of the things that I'm going to be honest, not one of the things I'm going to be honest about, the shooting in Buffalo at Tops, that hit me differently. Primarily because it made it real. Like it was terrorism. It was another version, a more personal version for me of 9/11. Oh, you know what? I need to take this down so y'all can see me. Sitting here talking to y'all and don't even realize y'all can't see me. Okay. For me, it was a more personal version of kind of a 9/11 because although, the majority of people were not directly impacted by the terrorist attacks on 9/11, it was a trauma that was felt nationwide. It was a trauma because something that we thought couldn't happen happened. We were the greatest, the most superior military in the world. No one could do it. No one could stop us. But then what happened? And they hit us, and we were traumatized. That's what Buffalo kind of felt like to me. It made me feel immeasurably unsafe because now the grocery store, and we've talked about this a little bit on the show, the grocery store, church, all of these places I was now afraid of. But I realized once I started, because I don't like being out here all wrong, not just wrong, but misinformed, or not taking facts into consideration and just running with my feelings. You all know I believe facts and feelings are important, but each has its place in the decision-making process. So I told you all, I was really struggling and kind of still am about whether to get a firearm or not, because I don't feel safe. And so what I wanted to do before I went out and made a decision like that, I wanted to get real information. I wanted to get some facts because and actually, let me show you this clip from one of my favorite movies. It's called Leap of Faith. It stars Steve Martin, and he is and he'll tell you a little bit more about himself, but he is this pastor that takes a traveling, like a revival tent, and goes to these small towns and preaches and gets them to give him money, and then he moves to the next small town. And it really is, if you watch the movie, it really is a whole con game. And everybody in the background is in on it. He comes to this one town, and there's this the sheriff is very skeptical of him, trying to protect the town. And then there's this family, and the sister kind of starts falling for him. And the son hasn't been able to walk. He's gone to all the doctors. Nothing can be done. And so the son the brother starts believing in this faith healer, in Steve Martin. And then at this one revival, he says, "Help me walk." And he's a faith healer. He lays hands on people, and he has people in the audience. It's amazing the level of the con. And then this boy, he's not part of it. He stands up. And this is what happens when the boy this is what happens after the boy stands up and wants to and then comes and asks Steve Martin a question.
Hello, Boyd. Why aren't you out signing autographs or dancing?
I need to ask you a question. I wanted to know when you plan to leave town.
Leave? A couple of days, I guess.
Well, I wanted to know if I could go with you.
Well,
I can do a lot of things. I'll earn my keep.
you're a little too old to be running away with the circus, aren't you, kid?
No, it's not that. Look, you made me walk again, okay? A lot of people tried to do that, but they couldn't.
Hold it, kid. I had nothing to do with you walking.
Sure you did. Everybody saw it.
Look, I run a show here. It's a lot of smoke and noise, and it's strictly for the suckers. I've been pulling one kind of scam or another since I was your age. And if there's one thing I know, it's how to spot the genuine article. Because that's what you gotta watch out for. Not the cops. You can always get around the cops. But the one thing you can never, ever get around is the genuine article. And you, kid, are the genuine article.
Are you saying?
Yeah. That's what you can't get around, the genuine article. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting scammed, because I do know that there are people who utilize fear. They weaponize it so that you rush to make decisions because you just want to feel safe. I've studied this for a long time. When you look at abusers and other types of problematic types of people in our communities, and when you look at the root cause, I didn't want to get hustled. And so for me, it was, what is the root cause? What is the facts? What are the facts? And so as I started doing facts for myself, I realized that there was a lot that I did, that I felt, that I bought into, just like the media. I had gotten not numb yet, but I guess it is kind of numb. Um, I got kind of numb to, hey, Rico, the deaths that were around me, because they became so regular. And what I didn't realize I had done, I had made adjustments in my life so that those things didn't affect me. The normal types of gun violence didn't affect me. Um, Communities that I went into, I had good relationships with. Even the communities that some people consider dangerous, I didn't, because I knew people there. And I knew not just the people, but I am comfortable with the behaviors, the ways that you show up, those types of things, so that I can navigate in that space. And so I kind of, I hate to say that I got numb, because I always thought numb was, I just don't care anymore. But I realized that there's a numbing process. You don't just necessarily become all numb at one time. But I realized that this kind of poked in. It was like, oh, how, wait, guns, people get shot all the time. Why is this different? Because this became personal. And that's in looking at the data, I realized that that also happens in our society at large. People don't take a look at some of these issues until it affects them. Then all of a sudden, this is the worst thing ever, and why aren't people doing more? And I am sorry that I fell into that. I am, and you know what? Gonna do better. Gonna absolutely do better. Let me. I want to show a screen. This is why it's getting so much attention right now. Let's see. Sharing the screen. There we go. Let's give it the whole screen. Take a look at this. So, I wanted to get a list of some of the large mass shootings that have happened, or whatever. And this website, the Gun Violence Archives. This is an amazing site for all of the for a lot of the information on gun violence, about all of these things. It has been an incredible resource. But as I go there, I was looking to see which have been the last mass shootings in the last blase blah. Guess what I found? We can't even go back. This is the first page. It starts on June 7th, 2020. June 7th, 2022 in Virginia. You know what today is? Today is June 9th. 3 people killed, 1 injured. Then in Illinois, 4 people injured. Illinois, again, 4 people injured. Maryland, in Baltimore, right here, 2 people injured, 2 people killed. Arizona, Mesa, Arizona, 2 people killed, 2 people injured. I'm sorry, let's just do the 1, 2, 3, 4 days. 4 days, you got 8, 10, 11 people injured, and 5 people killed. 5 people killed and 11 people injured by gun violence on Tuesday. The shooting in Buffalo, I also realized that I ran with it also because it fit into a narrative designed around my fear. I had in the last few years, being Black has become a very central component of most of our identities. Not so much that it wasn't for us all the time, but society has now become awake all of a sudden to the fact that we exist, that there's disproportionate things happening against us, and has decided at this time to shine a light on those things. And those things are horrible. AR-15s, white supremacy, these indiscriminate mass shootings, those things are horrible, but no less horrible than what happens in our communities on a regular basis. Did you see that list, that Tuesday list? 11 people injured in gun violence, 5 dead on Tuesday in June. That's just one day. And it looked like on that list that they, at least the Wednesday, they just might not have data for Wednesday. the mass shootings in Buffalo, and then followed very quickly in Uvalde, then followed by all of the ridiculous antics of law enforcement and the NRA surrounding, particularly the Uvalde shooting, got me involved in a different way because it felt personal. Like those could have been my kids, but all of these people are dead. On Tuesday, remember, there were 11 people who were injured, 5 who were dead. And on Tuesday, handgun violence. And so our collective consciousness has been pulled back until it gets so big, until it's, oh my God, how big is that? How many people got hurt? It is the volume. It is the media appeal of it that gets us engaged. But it has regular people consequences. I have a friend in Columbus, Ohio, who is sitting on her couch. Not where she normally sits. Well, she was in her apartment, not where she normally sits on her couch, but she was in her apartment, and a bullet came through the wall, through the couch, through her arm. She has 2 holes on either side of her arm while she was sitting at home on her couch in her apartment. If she had, while she was not, because if she had been sitting on her couch where she usually sits, that would have gone through her. She would have been murdered in her own apartment. Nobody would have been there. There wasn't really a statement on that. There was one news article she sent out about a media report. Another friend of mine talked to me about a funeral that's happening this Friday in Georgia, where a son came home. His father put him out. Well, he came home from college. His father put him out. He came back a couple of days later and shot his father 3 times in the stomach. And in front of an 8-year-old sibling, I think 8 or 10-year-old sibling, I think it's 8, as the sibling tries to hold the blood in. To keep his father, keep the child's father from bleeding out. I'm sorry, like I got to be honest. This is rough. This is rough. The statistics by themselves paint a pretty grim picture. These are, anecdotal evidence, things that people bring me. Oh, it could just be the people I know. Could be. Well, if you look at a Brookings report, and they said in 2013, because we can only get data every so often. 2013, firearm deaths accounted for 11% of all years of potential life loss. What potential life loss, what that means is that when people die prematurely, whether it's by homicide, accident, preventable disease, there's a calculation that identified or estimates how much life they would have had. So if none of these things had happened, they would have lived X amount of time. And what they do is they calculate that for everybody. I used to be the chief of policy and public information for the Department of Health. You would be amazed the number of things that get calculated. But there is a calculation on the number of years lost. 11% of that is, for all people, 11% of that is due to firearms. That's AR-15s, handguns, accidents, homicides, the whole 9. But less than 6% of all life lost for white people. So that means that for everybody, it's at 11. And when you just factor in for whites, it's down to 6. And then you take it further. You find, when you dig down deeper into the numbers, you find that out of all of the deaths of whites by gun violence, firearm violence, by firearms, 77% of them are from suicide and 19% from homicide. But when you look at Black deaths, 14% are from homicides. 14% are from suicides. 82% are from homicides. Guys, I gotta be honest. This is a rough one. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Michael. Sorry, this is a rough one because There's a lot going on and a lot that we need to be doing. And the statistics, the actual data is incredibly alarming. But what's more alarming is kind of the excuses that get made right now. And again, bringing the facts to the conversation. So I'm going to go through big up to Johns Hopkins for a report that they put out on their website about the myths and facts regarding gun violence and the statistics around it. And so, there are a lot of people that, and I am one too, is critics of Hopkins, but never the accuracy of their research. They tend to be consistent with that, or at least anyway. One of the big myths that they identify, and this is a common trope about Black people making everything worse. They try to say that urban homicides, like, the fact that it happens in Baltimore, Chicago, these places, LA, those are the reasons that homicide rates or firearm deaths look so grim and so significant, except that that's actually not true. The issue is that these places that they talk about just have more people because when you look at the highest rates of death, and rates are a measure by 100,000. So how many people per 100,000? And it's not, when you look at it, just raw numbers, Maryland as a state, Michigan as a state, and Illinois as a state drive the numbers. Detroit, Baltimore, Detroit, and Chicago. But when you take a look back and look at the states themselves, you realize that the ones with the highest rate, lower population, but higher number, proportionally a higher number of people being killed, are Mississippi, Louisiana, Wyoming, Missouri, and Alabama. Now, when you look at the number, and again, we don't teach kids math enough that they can, in many cases, that we as adults can understand the difference. But when you look at the number, the sheer number, yes, Maryland is driven by Baltimore and they are high. When you look at the sheer number, Detroit drives Michigan and they're high. When you look at the sheer number, Chicago drives Illinois and it's high. But when you look at the rate, the per capita rate, you realize that those are not the states where the majority of these types of killings are happening. The next thing that gets said a lot is that it's so disingenuous, it's so frustrating, because we spend a lot of time, not just on the show, but with BlackUSA.news, talking about the need for mental health, the need for mental health access, the need for mental health resource investment, the need for us to understand the rigors and challenges of our own mental health. And so as soon as something like this happens, there needs to be mental health treatment. Well, yes, absolutely. But it also needs to be gun reform, gun regulations, because like they say at Hopkins, there may be a link in this article. They say there may be a link, but the Uvalde shooter, there was no indication of previous diagnosis. So where's the link? He may have had mental health issues, but guess what? These places didn't fund the mental health engagement or the interventions enough to actually catch it. So on one hand, you don't want to fund mental health, but on the other hand, you say that's the problem. So let's look at it even more. Is that in most places, people with mental health issues are not able to get a firearm. And so in these cases like Buffalo and Uvalde, that wouldn't have popped. That wouldn't have got them. The red flag laws wouldn't have caught them, even if they existed. And and like in Texas, that's not even a real thing. Texas absolutely believes that the governor, a few months ago, signed a bill to allow anybody to carry without a permit in Texas. And so these ideas that mental health issues are the culprit, that is a separate issue. Mental health may have played a factor in, but that still doesn't stop the fact that doesn't stop two facts. I'm sorry. All of my thoughts. This is such a, again, as I've been reading this, just realizing the depth that as a country we've sunk to, and realizing that no other country and no industrialized country that we would normally try to rank ourselves with is dealing with this in any remote way. It's disturbing how easy we are for the Second Amendment, right? With which I realize, and that most of the people who talk about the Second Amendment don't actually even know what that sentence says. That's a separate thing. there needs to be something done in mental health and in gun reform. So if somebody starts bringing up the mental health challenges, because this will come up, this will be part of the debate. That's fine. Let's do something about mental health, but we can do more than one thing to solve this problem. It's so funny. They say, and this is one of the big ones I hear, because they say most mass shooters are only they're targeting people that they don't know, and this is where some of that numbing starts to happen. Don't forget the chart I showed you, that the table I showed, because on Tuesday, June 7th, the Gun Violence Archive, they identified 11 people who were injured by gun violence and 5 people who were killed. Now, that happened at one time. It may get some attention. Do you see how it is that now, if so long as it's at a micro level, we're like, oh, well, it's not that deal. It's that big a deal. Now everybody's talking. The funny part is that everybody's talking about the AR-15. And a lot of us a lot of people who were against gun reform, against the proliferation of weapons, like myself, are now rethinking not only the position on the policy, but on our personal decision making as well. It is still the fear that is driving the behavior. And if that's the choice we make, that's fine. But look at where we are when they let fear drive their behavior. So again, I want to bring us some facts so that we can make sure that we are talking about the same thing and we have accurate information to give pushback. This idea that these people with these large capacity magazines, or these people that end up making the media or making the news and getting a lot of coverage and turn into hashtags, they are the ones that we focus on. So people killing large people in small periods of time, like dozens of people or upwards of 10, that might be a little different. That is something that gets the media attention. But as you saw, 5 individual incidents, 11 people injured by gun violence, by firearms, and 5 people dead. So it's all of the firearms, and most of those, like this, what was it? The shooting. I don't see it on my notes. The shooting of the guy, the man who came in, he had surgery, and he went to the hospital and walked in and shot, I think, and murdered 3 people and injured a few others because he wanted to kill the doctor who he didn't feel was responsive enough to helping him address his pain issue. Well, he knew them. He was going to kill the doctor and anyone who got in his way. That was his goal. And he picked up the high capacity weapon on the way, but he had already purchased a gun legally. And the next one that, Hopkins doesn't really run through, but an argument that I hear often, and it's so inane that it is ridiculous to even have to address. They say, well, if they didn't have a gun, they would have used a knife or a machete or a bomb. But we're not dealing with mass stabbings. Like, honestly, if you lock the door, you can't stab through a window. That doesn't happen. You have a machete, they can get. If you have a machete, 19 officers are not going to hide out in the hallway. And some of them have to put their jobs on the line to go in to save kids, even after 77 minutes, talking about Uvalde specifically. How many of those police officers would have been hiding if somebody had a knife? The Parkland shooting, there was the picture of the police officer who was walking to the building, heard the gunshots, and turned around and walked away. Would he have walked away for a knife? I don't think so. Well, honestly, I can't say that. But as we focus on the legislation, the policy issues, where we invest our resources and time, we need to make sure that we are focused on the root causes. It is the firearms themselves. And I'm going to be honest, I recognize that, and I'm still afraid enough that I haven't foregone the idea of getting a gun myself. That is how powerful the fear of being unprotected is, that it'll make you do stuff that, even as I am reading the statistics to you, the recognition that most of the gun injuries are, not most, but a lot of the gun injuries are accidental. Even reading that, even doing the research on this, even seeing how literally getting a gun never makes the situation better. I still am struggling with the fact that it'll make me feel good though. And that is what's happening with a lot of people who are talking the gun debate, the policy issues, or these ideas, hardening schools, Sally ports, or the doors with tripwires in them. Like, those ideas are good ideas when you don't consider the reality. When you are just trying to make yourself feel good that you did something, yeah, anything you do feels good because you feel like you're making progress. Whew. Doesn't matter that the data says that we can do different. Doesn't matter that the data says that we can do better. We just want to feel good. We want to feel safe. And when people say, well, I don't understand that because this is da da da, suggest that if you really want to understand, think about the things that make you afraid, and it gives you an empathy point. So you have one of my friends said, I can't understand Trump supporters after all the things that they've done, all the things that he's done. He keeps taking their money, or how people keep following the NRA no matter what they do. And what I reminded her is how much her cousin follows her pastor, no matter, they literally caught the pastor stealing money. They prayed on it, repented on it, he got the money back, and now they're following him again and just have greater checks on him. And there have been other things that her cousin's pastor has done. But I'm like, she keeps going back. How is that much different? She's afraid to be without that particular body of Christ. And so she is willing to ignore whatever just to make herself feel connected. Same thing with a lot of these people in the NRA. It is the defining characteristic. It is the thing that makes them feel safe in a world that they don't control. In a world where there are not resources, and not just the NRA, but also the brothers and sisters in our communities. They want to feel safe. You know, we don't talk about, well, we're now starting to recognize the problem with even police having weapons. Police have to have weapons because everybody else has them. You don't really get down like that in, England and other countries. Like, everybody's not armed because the police don't have to defend themselves with people with military grade weapons. That's why they need them. And disarming the population. I mean, and then oh my God, because one of the struggles I have, and I'm sharing this with you because, like, this is a struggle. I don't want to seem like, oh, I did the research and it makes sense, because on the other side of it, I also still think about Donald Trump and the way that he was able to take portions of the government and turn them against people. Now, granted, if they turned them against Black people, even if we had guns, there wouldn't be much that we'd be able to do, real talk, if we're going to be honest. Everybody who saw January 6th knows that if that was a group of Black people, everybody would have been beaten, tear gassed, and sprayed down. Look at the type of security that they put out for demonstrations on Black Lives Matter. Like, they were bringing in correctional officers from the Federal Bureau of Prisons to make sure things didn't get out of hand on the Black Lives Matter rallies. But then when the white Trump supporters showed up on January 6th, oh no, there's nothing we can do. Hold this metal bar. Do you notice how there was only one time that weapons got discharged? Like that, like they are attacking police, and the police somehow managed to maintain their calm. They're being attacked by bear spray, poles, bats. They see gallows out. They have this restraint. Another reason that we have to get guns out of the community, because there is a difference between the lives of people with color around guns and the lives of white people around guns. We'll get back to some of the myths and facts in a little bit, but one of the more interesting things that I found, one of the ones that hit and hurt significantly, is that the NRA had an incredible opportunity to not just stand on the Second Amendment righteousness, but also to bring Black people into the fold. when Philando Castile was murdered in Minnesota, he was a law-abiding, gun-owning citizen. He had a firearm, had his hands up, and told the officer, by the way, as he was required to do, I have my firearm on me, not reaching for it, just letting you know. She freaked out and shot him. He was in the passenger seat. There's a child in the back. A woman's driving. She shot him. That is literally everything that the NRA has been screaming about for years. That law-abiding gun owners who, and oh, by the way, and he was a pillar of his community. Like, I know that was one of the things they hated, that they couldn't find anything on him. No dirt, no warrants, like they couldn't find anything. And I'm on the crown of this brother. They could have built an entire movement to bring Black people in, because they would have stood up, and if they had just stood up and said, this is wrong, just this is wrong. He is what they warned about. Government interaction, and you get killed just because you have your firearm. Just because you have it, they kill you. You become a threat just because, like, literally is what they've been talking about for years. And by years, not like a couple, but like measured in decades. Well, after, when Ronald Reagan and the NRA moved to ban open carry law in California because the Black Panthers had it. The Black Panthers walked around their neighborhoods with shotguns and open carry because it was legal in California. And then once they started doing it in Oakland, violence went down, but fear went up. And Ronald Reagan and the NRA moved to restrict possession of firearms in California. It was great when everybody else could do it. But once the Negroes forgot their place, the rules had to change for everybody. Philando Castile was what the NRA warned about since the 80s. He literally would fit in the definition, well, as broad as they've defined well-regulated militia. He followed all of the rules to get his firearm. He had it exactly the way he should have. He complied and gave the notice that he was required to law enforcement. He did all of the right things, and a cop murdered him anyway. And the NRA sat there and said nothing. Not even a passive-aggressive Black Lives Matter or hashtag Philando Castile. And if I'm wrong, please, somebody educate me. But when I looked, I did not see a statement from them. I would love to be wrong on this one. I would love to be wrong. I don't think I am. Well, the Google lady says I'm not. So as we start talking about these gun laws, let's not forget that there will be disproportionate disproportionate enforcement. Making sure that as we start having these conversations, that part of the enforcement, am I frozen? Okay, I thought I was frozen. Part of the enforcement or part of the policy discussion will have to be ensuring that equity and inclusion are part of the discussion at the policy level, to ensure that the policies that get put in place and the implementation and the enforcement, that they all have an equity lens. Because honestly, most of the time when laws are made, we end up catching the brunt of them, even the ones that are designed to benefit us. They give police more room to just do random searches and incarceration, and get more brothers and sisters in jail in that system, and the economic benefits to others of it. Like, that is what happens. And so as we are looking at these gun reform ideas and these myths, we need to make sure that we take our communities into consideration and we do what's best for them. The last thing that I want to talk about is one of the things about gun violence that we tend not to really focus on. And it's something called vicarious trauma. And now if you look up vicarious trauma, the interesting part is that you will find a lot of research on vicarious trauma and the associated secondary traumatic stress and secondary victimization. Well, at least the secondary traumatic stress. You'll find a lot of that when it comes to working with law enforcement. They talk a lot about, you end up, because you work with all these things, you end up having these different changes in life and how you view things. And we're going to have a whole show on vicarious trauma later on. But one of the things that I want to talk about in the context of gun violence or violence in general is that our communities are experiencing vicarious trauma. I've shared this with you all before. I've not had any necessarily negative experiences. Let me see, negative experiences with police. None of them that were bad. All of them were very reasonable, has been my experience. The challenge, not even the challenge, but I do recognize that some of the reason that I have different experiences that, most of my life have been solidly middle class, that I know how to turn on the code switch when necessary. I am compliant. I got taught those rules. And my last name is Esquire. That tends to make sure that people don't bother me a lot. Or that my experiences, I know enough about my rights and then how to navigate the law to ensure that there's at least a certain level of treatment. But I still get scared when I see a police officer's light go on behind me, whether it's for me or not, because Philando Castile, because Freddie Gray, because Mike Brown. There's so many names. Because my friend, because my friends who have been injured by police or just harassed. One of my friends got locked up on his way to a job interview because he was trying to rush the cop. Well, he got detained. I mean, I say arrested. He put him in his car to check because his name, made him late for a job interview just because. While that may not have been homicidal, it's still. Oh, Michael, thank you. Here's an article, Understanding Black Rage and How It Impacts Our DNA. Oh, Michael be coming through. Oh, and Erica, and Erica knows what I'm talking about. Erica is the premier, my premier social worker friend, comes in and help make sure that we stay on board with the topics and things like that. But our communities are dealing with this trauma on a regular basis, and unfortunately, when you look at vicarious trauma, most of the resources are pointed toward law enforcement. Some toward counselors and people in helping professions, and mental health professions, but not really in the community. I shared this story before. I used to do some volunteer work in at the Covenant House in Washington, D.C. And at that time, I was doing audio engineering and online radio station before podcasts and stuff like that. Had a great time with Radio for Real. And again, big up to my man. Hey, I'll run your credentials. I got receipts. Hell, you know what? If y'all don't believe that Erica know what she's talking about, go ahead and check out that episode. Don't make me go back and get that episode. Anyway, I was doing not research. I was doing a recording for some kids at the Covenant House because it's always been important to me that people get an opportunity to use their voice, to really speak on issues that they care about. And so I interviewed this kid. He's 10 years old, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, we I was like, "Well, what's life like?" He said, "Well, I had 3 best friends. Now I only have 2 because one of them got shot. But that kind of happens. So it was sad. But no, at least I have my other 2 best friends." He's 10 years old, and it was just a natural occurrence for him, for somebody that he loves, somebody that he cares about, somebody that he identifies as a best friend, to be taken from you. And y'all know how serious best friends are for kids. Don't get it twisted. Like that is like brother from another mother, sister from another mister. Like that is really deep and connective for children of that age. And he's been made numb enough that it happens. He was less upset over that than I've been over missing a bus. That is part of his existence, his experience. That is a trauma response. And I commend places like the Covenant House and all of these other places that are really trying to invest, but it's patchwork here, patchwork there, everybody just doing their best. There needs to be a systemic issue. And as we are talking, if they want to talk about mental health, then let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about the systemic issues that are causing repeated trauma. And they said, well, why can't you get over it? Because it's still happening. This is not a situation where guns are happening to people and there's nothing we can do. That violence is just what we have to endure. It's not. And I got to be honest, I'm tired of it. And we're not going to do that anymore. So we will continue to bring you all the facts as we find them, keeping you all updated to what's going on. And we need to also understand the magnitude of the challenge and the trauma we're dealing with. Take a look at this. Oh, you can't see that. Never mind. Let me see if I can find another. See if I can find another copy of it. Let's see. Oh, no, I already showed you this. Actually, go to the gun violence archive. And let's be clear, go there if you can handle it mentally, because it's a lot. Because these aren't just data points. These aren't data points, these are people. For each one of those people, there is a family member. For each one of those people, a lot of times the results of gun violence, how about this? I've literally heard people talk about the pain of trying to navigate life after gun violence, between chronic injuries, between impact on people and their families, the fact that they now feel like a burden in those things. They're like, yo, dog, sometimes I wish. When we live in a system where that is the death from gun violence is a better alternative than living in some cases. That is part of the problem. You know what? Sorry, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't get to today. But you know what? Let's do a part 2 tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to talk more about solutions. We're going to talk about some of the legislation that's worked. We're going to talk a little bit more about the resources that are out there for victims of gun violence. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about what we can do about it. And it's not nothing, and it's not arguing. Big up to organizations like Baltimore Ceasefire 365, Baltimore Safe Streets. Actually, Baltimore Safe Streets is an organization that actually was acknowledged by the CDC for its impact. And we'll talk again. I had a whole other segment that we were supposed to get into today, but I am grateful to you all for the support and giving me an opportunity to talk about this, and also just to walk on this journey with me. You know, it's a little unsure times to step into this place and to really talk about how to process, or how I'm processing this information and these feelings. And I'm grateful that I have you all. I'm sorry, this whole thing made me tired. But let's end on some good stuff. Let's end on some good stuff. Great stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the 3rd annual Black Family Homeschool Educators and Scholars. Now, let me be clear. This organization, BlackFamilyHomeschool.org, is not a sponsor of BlackUSA.news or The Morning Show. We've had Dr. Ollie Coleman on a few times, and Dr. Ollie Coleman is an amazing friend. We've known each other for a long time. But one of the reasons that I keep bringing this up is that it is important Even, well, especially in the context as we're talking about how do we protect our children, that homeschooling is an option. Again, however you navigate your experience, however you navigate what's going on with you, that's up to you. But I feel like it's our responsibility to provide you all some options. Um, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still, yeah, I'm shook. Oh, thank you for acknowledging that, Erica. It is an emotionally exhausting topic. Um, and I don't want to jump onto the scene like not even feel, I've seen people do, especially people running for office who aren't from Baltimore. They jump in on what they're going to come and do to save us. I don't want to be that on this gun issue because I know there are so many people who are working steadily on it, who are really digging in and have devoted their lives to addressing this. And I am grateful for them. I just, how do you process this? Actually, I think that's gonna have to be a show. Hell, I might just invite y'all to the therapy sessions, just hit record and be like, can we air this? Because I'm having a lot of problems processing this because it's a lot on my soul. And then, I got to be honest, the one that messed me up, because the one that messed me up is when I went to the archives and I saw the deaths from this week, like since Sunday. It was like, I don't even know, like the injuries, and then again, we get so focused on the death, but like the injuries too. Like, yo, we have people who were like friends who are living with colostomy bags. Like, nothing wrong with that, but it didn't have to be that way. Mental health issues, like, and just to be scared all the time. You talk about a traumatic experience. That's real. And that's something we need to deal with. And like I said, I am grateful for you all joining me on the journey. It is a rough and emotional one, but I am eternally grateful. I'm gonna go take a nap or something right now because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Oh wow. Oh yeah. Yeah. Erica said that the last quadruple shooting with one of the ones I showed you in Baltimore was near her son's school. Like this is, and by the way, don't forget to function at work when you get there, and make sure you pay all your bills, and make sure and make sure and make sure and make sure and make sure, and don't worry about the gun violence part. Don't worry about sitting in your home, standard urban city, and just walking around and getting shot through your arm, or your son getting pissed at you for you that you kicked him out and coming and shooting you 3 times in front of your 8-year-old, while the 8-year-old tries to save your life. What does the life look like for the 8-year-old? What does that look like for his wife? What does that look like for the rest of his kids? We haven't even hit the community. Hell, me. I literally, this is a friend of a friend of a friend. And I'm having to process through it. Would it be as sad if he had stabbed him 3 times in the stomach? Absolutely. But he didn't. He didn't. Guns are specifically made for killing things, destroying things. That's it. People say for defense, you defend by killing them. It clearly is not a deterrent. 400 million guns in America. We literally have more civilian guns than some countries' military. Think about that. Think about that. I know gas prices are high. Hell, I know gas prices are high. But on Tuesday, 11 people were shot and 5 people were murdered that we know of. Tuesday. I don't, what else? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what we can do about it. Love you guys. We'll be black tomorrow.